Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Welsh Premiership podcast. If you haven't seen any other episodes, includes the like of Richard Brooks, Billy McBride and Ale Thomas. To watch any of these, check our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter at Welsh Prem Pod. We're a man down today with Adam away, but we're still going ahead, and today we're joined with Cardiff RFC captain and number 8, Morgan Allen. Morgan, how are you doing and how's lockdown been?
Mate, I'm good. I think lockdown was a challenge for us all. I think everyone had different challenges. But no, it is what you make of it. I think when you're told you got X amount of time off work, you just sort of occupy yourself, and Mrs. is always into you about doing jobs around the house and trying not to get too fat and drink too much beer, I think is the biggest issue.
Obviously, Cardiff finished the season was cut short, but Cardiff were top by a considerable margin. How well was the season for you? How satisfied were you with Cardiff's efforts?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it was a massively successful season. We had a poor start, last year, if you want to call it last year. So to come out the way we did and put things right with the squad we had, so we did with however many wins on the bounce. It was a 10 or 11 or something. It was class. I think that set us up then for a good run into what would definitely be a title win. First run for, I think it's 20 odd years, I think, with Cardiff. Disappointing the way it finished. But it is what it is, and we've just got to go again, if there is another season or when that starts.
And obviously in 2018-19, you finished second behind Merthyr. What were the main differences did you feel from 2018-19 to last season that made you make that jump between second and first?
I think it was our start. I think that season we had a lot of new players coming, myself included, and it just took us a bit of time. I think people forget we're only together 2 days a week, like 3 hours training or something like that. So try and get a whole new squad of boys, working together and playing well together is tough. Whereas I think this year we maybe had more of a settled squad, 1 or 2 key positions come in. I think that just helped us get off to a flying start and set us up.
And you mentioned your start there, of course. You beat Ponty on opening day. You beat reigning champions Merthyr 20-3 in December. And of course, you had that big win against Ebbw in the Cup. What were your sort of standout victories from the season?
I think for us, it was beating the sides of like Ponty, like Merthyr, the sides that were all top of the table. I think when we sort of beat them, we knew we were in a good place. And we knew it was going to be a good season. No disrespect to the teams in the league, they can all put a good game on their day, but I think those 2 or 3 teams are the ones you look at and think it's going to be a tough game. Places like Llandovery away, not easy places to go. We lost down there last year and we got a bit embarrassed, and then this year we turned up and we turned them over. Just little differences like that, just being able to go to these places and put shifts in that we maybe didn't do last year.
And you're playing under a man you know very well, Steve Law. How important is he to Cardiff, and how do you rank among other coaches you've been coached by?
He's an interesting character, is his spot. He calls himself a facilitator, so he doesn't do an awful lot of coaching. He just puts things in place to make everything work. And I think he kind of deserves that. He's been about a long time. He knows his stuff. Where you stand with him, and he doesn't take any shit, and he doesn't give you any bullshit. It is what it is with him. Straight talking, which is what you need sometimes.
And what are Cardiff's ambitions then going into next season? Can you match where you were this season, and can you even better it?
I think we can. I think some of the signings we made for next season are definitely improvements. And I think if we can get off to a start and get the squad together and working like it was, this season, I don't see why we can't, replicate it. If not, go a little bit better. I think it'd be hard to beat our start, but we've got to give it a go and see where we end up.
And Morgan, you named Cardiff captain at the start of this season, and obviously after just 1 year leading the side, you finished top of the table. So how do you feel? Do you feel this was down to good leadership, or?
I was the worst captain ever. I'm so bad we didn't even finish the season. No, I think I said it's not just one person. I think that as cliche as it is, it's a team game, and you look at some of the players we got, and it's hard to see what we haven't done well, really. We've got great boys. You have Abbas at scrum half, Gaz Thompson at 10. We've got Alex Everett in the back row. Zach O'Driscoll we had as well. Barney in the centre. There's some good quality players there. Some with professional experience, some were not, but all solid players on their day, and you can put a shift in and ready to work for each other.
And you won the Welsh Cup your first season there. How's this rank among your achievements?
Surprised, but I've never actually won anything before. So to pick up a Welsh Cup in my first season back, it was great. It was a great occasion at the stadium. Obviously, it's never going to be full. There was a good crowd there. Mum, Dad, and brother were there watching. It was just nice to pick up a bit of silverware. You don't get many opportunities in your career to pick up a trophy, whether that be top level or Division 5. So to pick one up in the Prem, the way it was done, the way we played was massive to me.
And a quick word about Tom Haverfield. How important has he been in the dressing room this year alongside you? Obviously, he's a player with a lot of professional experience, and arguably should still be playing regional rugby.
He's been big. He just drives standards, and he's always willing to help people out. He's always behind after training, helping the young scrum halves, doing a bit of skills and just passing on a little bit of knowledge. I agree he should be playing regional rugby, but the way regional rugby is at the moment, I don't know if anyone would want to. The way boys are being treated and wages being cut and whatever, it's brutal. It's a brutal place to be. But I say he brings boys on, and he's always willing to help and pass on any knowledge, any skills he's got to anyone else who's willing to stay there with him.
And is there any other players that have stood out for you in your time at Cardiff?
I'm amazed Evan Yardley can run around, given how fat he is. Alex Everett in the back row, didn't know a lot about him. He turned up and he was outstanding for us this year. Horrific injury towards the end of the season, but I think the break's probably done him a bit of good. He's recovered from that now, and I think he'll be big for us again next year.
And Pontypool were one of your first clubs. What do you make of what's happened there the last few years? How unlucky they've been with the playoff and now this season being cancelled and stuff?
It's brutal for him. I think it should just be straight up, straight down. I think the way they lost last season, I think it was borderline unethical. I think, but I understand why teams are trying to save their life in the Premiership. I want Pontypool to come up. It's really close to my house, so it means I'm only going to drive 5 minutes to the game. So I'd be more happy to see him back up there.
And there's been a lot of talk about the Premiership's not good enough for upcoming regional youngsters to play in. So what's your take on this? Do you think it's good enough for them?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Where else are they going to play? What are they going to do? Train 5 days a week and then do some fitness on a Saturday? It's shit, isn't it? You're best off playing rugby. And I think that's what a lot of people don't do. I mean, there's boys who play 1 or 2 games a season and you're not learning nothing there. Waiting for this apparent A-League, which I played a bit in last year, and it was 6 games. There's nothing and have 20 odd games in the Premiership every season and learning. Like I said, there's boys in the league with professional experience who are still good players and are willing to help. And I think the young boys definitely will learn from the people next to them and just chatting to them next to them. I mean, you have some boys. Your Dav Locke here at Ponty, he's played about 35 seasons in the Prem. I think any young centre has got something to learn off him. Habbers at Cardiff, loads to learn. There's boys everywhere who got experience and willing to help the young lads come through.
And do you think there's a massive gap in standards between the Premiership rugby and regional rugby, having played at both levels?
I think there is, yeah, just due to the sheer physicality. I mean, them boys, full time, 5 days a week, training hard, and they're used to it. I think whereas we're now 2 days a week. The contacts aren't as big. It's maybe not as fast ball and play time. Skills are not quite the same, but I think there is a bit of a drop off. But there's no better alternative at the moment.
Aside from Premiership rugby, then between 2010 and 2015, you had 5 years at the Ospreys. How do you remember your time down there?
I loved it. It was a whole new experience. I don't think I took it as seriously as I should have. From day one, thought I could get away with just turning up and doing the bare minimum day in, day out. Took me about 2.5 years to realise that you've actually got to try and put a bit of work in, and then you realise when your contract's ending, you think, shit, I could be out of a job, I could be back doing what I was doing before. So I think maybe I didn't take it as seriously as I should have, but made the most of it in my last 2.5 years there. Didn't want to leave. Loved it. They'd been there, like I said, 5 years. Knew the boys, knew the place inside out, knew everything. But there was players who come in who were maybe a bit more experienced than I was, and then didn't play half as much. I think played 5 or 6 games. That was it, for about 5 times what I was on. So it was disappointing to leave, but it was an opportunity then to get the Scarlets and play some regular rugby, which I did in the first season.
Yeah, as you just mentioned, then you moved on to the Scarlets. So was that more about getting regular rugby? Was that sort of your key factor in leaving to the Scarlets?
Yeah, I think in my last season at the Ospreys, I think I sat on the bench, I don't know, 10, 12 times or something. I was like, mate, I'm 25, need to be playing rugby. I'm not going to get any better, sitting on the bench or not playing at all. So it was an opportunity to move down there. Took it, knew I was going to play a hell of a lot more and learn a hell of a lot more down there.
So obviously then when you were turning out for the regions, you did have the opportunity, as so many players do, to drop down and play in the Premiership for the likes of Swansea, Aberravon, Llanelli, etc. Did you feel this benefited you by giving you regular rugby, or do you feel that chopping and changing teams week in, week out was a bit of a hindrance to you?
I think at the time I maybe thought that it wasn't for me. I signed for the Ospreys, wanted to play for the Ospreys. Took me a little bit of time to realise that it's not that easy. You've got to go and play and prove yourself. It was only my second or third season of senior rugby or something. So maybe looking back now, we should have given it a bit more time. I think Swansea enjoyed it when Webby was there. Very similar character at the spot. But then Jason Hyatt came in, and he didn't massively like the boys dropping down, which again at the time didn't really understand. But a bit older, a bit wiser now, and look at it and go, oh, okay, I kind of get that. But it gives you an opportunity to, that's what I mean. There's nowhere else to play. You just end up training and doing weights and fitness, and you're not getting any better. Because I think it's a good opportunity to improve yourself and show why you should be in the squad if you can go and turn up with 1 day's training and put a man of the match performance in.
Yeah. And you also had a short spell at Ealing Trailfinders in the English Championship. How was that for you? How was the environment different to when you were playing in Wales?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mistake to go, to be honest. Went completely for the wrong reason. Went for money. And it was, I just find it was quite a strange, maybe even borderline toxic environment there. There was boys there, I've said it before, that I don't think would get in any other regional team, and they were probably being paid way over the odds for that league. And I think it took me about 3 days, and I was like, I don't want to be here. But it was too late. I was there, and that was it. So I think I got Christmas and knew I wanted to come back to Wales and start to get a proper job. There's a few things I looked at, but none of it was really catching my eye, to be honest.
Yeah. And obviously you played with a fair few big names and big players in your career, but who are some of the best players that you played with?
I, in any team now, do you mean?
Any team.
Yeah. Look at my time at the Ospreys. Some of the players are there, like Shane Williams, Ryan Jones, Lee Byrne, Marty Holler, Duncan Jones, Adam Jones, Hibbs. You look at that and think, bloody hell, or British Lions, bloody 50-odd Cat Welsh at nationals. You look at that and think they're class players, and maybe don't realise at the time. I sort of look back at it now and go, I was, it was very different, like compared to what I was used to playing at Pontypool on a shitty wet Saturday afternoon, getting the shit kicked out to you by Ponty.
Morgan, just a quick question about the Ealing bid. What do you think the difference is between the quality of rugby in the English Championship, say, to the Pro 14 league the regions play in?
Oh, it's massive, honestly. The standard of the whole league, I think, is well below the Pro 14. You've seen that with any team that comes down. Newcastle this year romped the league. I think Saracens could probably put their thirds out next year and won't lose a game. Then sort of the further you go down the league, then it's just nowhere near. All right, they're still full time and stuff, but it's nowhere near regional rugby. Honestly, it'd be 60, 70 points, if not more. I think even the Dragons.
Do you feel that then Wales benefits from having the 4 pro teams and then the sort of Premiership as a tier in below, than trying to have all these teams competing at the top?
I think so, yeah. Just because Wales is a small country. It's not got the money or the finances that England has got. I think a lot of the clubs in England as well are old clubs, so they've got the heritage there. Whereas I think in Wales we've got to adopt it and realise, how many teams? 4 teams, 30 players each team, 120 players in Wales. How many of them are good enough to play in regional rugby? 100, 90. You look at that and you think you've got a squad of 90 players to pick from for international rugby, whereas that's 2 or 3 squads in the English Prem, even down in the English Champ.
Morgan, you represented Wales age grade quite a few times, including the Six Nations Championship at the under-20s and the Junior World Cup. What was it feeling like representing them at a young age and also scoring a couple of tries in the World Cup?
I mean, it was good. We had a good group of boys. We had Phil Davis in charge, who sort of realised we were men, we weren't kids, so he treated us like it. If you wanted to go out and have a beer, we'd have a beer, which was fine. Especially in Cardiff, we play the game on a Friday night, do what we had to do after the game, and I think most of us would go out. It was never held against us. It was never really mentioned, and then some of the characters in the team was brilliant, and I think that's what made it such fun. And you go out to Argentina and you're stuck out there for 5-6 weeks with the same group of boys. You play your games and you go out for a beer and you're in a foreign country. It was class. I think pretty much after every game there's a table of beers in the hotel for us. And it was, if you want to go mad, but just remember what you're doing. I think as soon as we lost to New Zealand, it was pretty much a stag do then, to be honest. We were just out enjoying ourselves and going to see the sights of wherever we stayed.
There was a couple of good names in our squad, the likes of Josh Navidi and Talupe Faldo, just in our back row. But how good is it to see what they've gone on to do now?
Well, Toby's stolen my life. It should be me. He's a good guy. You look at Josh as well, what he's done for Wales and the Blues. He's on fire. In the shout of the British Lions next year, Toby, if he's fit, same thing. Some boys and they've got to do massive things with their careers.
And obviously, you said you had good times in our squad. Who are some of the best characters there?
You look at boys like Christian Phillips, Ashley Beck. I sort of knew at the World Cup I was going at the Ospreys, so they looked after me a little bit, and I was in a room with Becky for 5-6 weeks. So he was always up for a beer as well, which was good. Matthew Jarvis, a good guy. He loved the beer as well. Pop out for a few after every game. Yeah, I mean, there's some really good guys in there who were always up for a laugh, and took rugby for what it was, basically.
And to finish then, a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of a quiz on your teammates. These can be from anyone, regional players or Premiership players or whatever. So it's 5 questions. First question is, who's the worst dressed teammate?
Ian Goff, I think. Sports casual, teams and trainings all the time.
Who's the best drinker?
Best drinker. Tom Smith.
Yeah.
Wouldn't put yourself in there, would you?
No, not at that level. No. He's put the best a few times.
Who's the best changing room DJ you've played with?
I'd tell you, Evan Yardley was pretty good this year, actually. He banged out some good tunes for him, from someone from Bridgend.
And without throwing anyone too much under the bus, who's a nightmare on a night out?
I definitely can't include myself in that. Let's go with the Cardiff boys. Matthew Powell's pretty bad. He's a nuisance on a night out. Gareth Thompson's, he's a scumbag as well. He's a horrible bloke. Kieran Martin, never scumbag.
And if you're stuck on a desert island, who are the teammates that you would want to be stuck with and that you wouldn't want to be stuck with?
Kieran Martin, wouldn't want to be stuck with him. Breaks me. He's been bullying me tonight on Twitter as well. Cyberbullying. Tom Smith, quite an intelligent bloke who's trained to be a doctor. He's quite switched on. Richard Kelly as well. A couple of years at the Ospreys with him. He wouldn't want to be one. He's not the brightest, fair play to him. He's a good coach, but not the brightest bloke. We'll go with one more. I would be. I think I'd stick Matthew Powell on it, just purely for entertainment purposes.
And that's it for this week. So thank you, Morgan, for joining us. Remember to check us out on YouTube for all previous episodes and give us a follow on Twitter @WelshPremPod. Thank you and stay safe.